We'll Meet Again. Written by Count von Vestra. Read by Arashi. This is how things were supposed to end. Ferdinand knows that well. But even then, it doesn't make anything easier. Blood-soaked and tired as he holds a man known to be his enemy in his arms, the stench of iron fills his senses, and despite it bothering him, he doesn't dare move. His hair is tangled and matted with dirt, mud, and blood. Some his own blood, some others. His muscles feel all tensed up, and despite his best efforts to let them relax, it does nothing. Tired, unfocused jade eyes look through Ferdinand, rather than at him. Blood is smeared across his face, the source being mostly from his nose and busted lip. But Ferdinand knows well enough that not all of the blood is his own. The red on his face is a stark comparison to the paleness of his face, nearly gray from life slowly leaving his body because of a giant wound piercing right through his stomach, all the way through to his back. With the amount of force he had to put behind the attack, it went clean through. His arm is still sizzling from the blast of miasma Hubert had let out right as the lance pierced his skin. How instead of hitting Ferdinand square in the chest or in the head, it grazed his arm instead. The armor broke off, and the remnants of the spell seeping into his underclothes and directly into his skin. With a shaky hand, Ferdinand moved Hubert's hair away from his eye, it falling limply down to his ear. Hubert's body didn't move an inch, but his eyes were a different story. They looked like they were almost vibrating in his skull, their motions never ceasing for a single second. But even then, his gaze is fixed on Ferdinand, or rather, beyond him, to the sky that is slowly beginning to be covered with big gray clouds. "I'm sorry," Ferdinand manages to whisper, his voice broken. His mouth feels dry and like sandpaper, or like he's been licking the gravel or mud off the ground. He doesn't know if Hubert can hear him, his face giving no indication at all. "I didn't want things to end this way. I never wanted this to happen." He didn't even realize he was slowly rocking back and forth, his hold on Hubert tightening further. Hubert's mouth opened a little, but closed, then kept repeating, as if the mage was trying so desperately to get words out, but his mouth was failing him. Ferdinand could see the cords in his neck tensing and relaxing. Eventually, he was able to get out a pained noise, choking and almost watery sounding. "Shh, shh. Don't try to talk," Ferdinand urges Hubert quietly, pressing a blood-coated gloved hand to Hubert's cheek. "I shouldn't have left you, Hubert. I shouldn't have followed the professor and the church so blindly. I don't know if I did the right thing. Would I have died if I joined you in Edelgard? Or, if I have stayed, would we have prevailed together?" Tears dripped down from his eyes, cascading down his grime-colored face and landing on Hubert's face. "But if I had joined you, just stayed with the Empire, I wouldn't be able to hold you in my arms as you die. I wouldn't have been the hand that killed you. I will never be able to go back and make a different decision." Ferdinand slowly leaned down and pressed his forehead against Hubert's. "But I will stay with you, for your final moments in this world. And one day, I will find you again in the next life. I hope you will wait for me. I'll make it up to you. I promise." As the light completely fades from Hubert's eyes, he feels fresh tears build up and spill. He slowly moves his head and presses a weak kiss to Hubert's forehead, before looking up and seeing Dorothea right in front of him, hands pressed against her heart, and tears falling from her own emerald eyes. "Ferdy," Dorothea whispers, breathing labored and shaky. "I'm so sorry." Ferdinand shakes his head and clears his throat. "We have to move and defeat Edelgard." Despite his words, he doesn't do anything but hold Hubert's limp body against his. "We cannot hesitate now." "You're allowed to feel your emotions, Ferdy. You don't have to hide them. You killed Hubie. I don't think any of us expect you to put on a strong face now," Dorothea insists. "Hubie was our friend." "My emotions will not help us win this war." Ferdinand snips as he slowly stands, not letting go of the mage for 1 second. "This is the cost of war, is it not? I made my decision, and I can't go back on it." Without waiting for a response from Dorothea, he walks past her into the wagons. Sedith sees Ferdinand and gives him an apologetic nod. "Just place him right here. We'll make sure he gets a proper burial, as well as Edelgard." Ferdinand nods and carefully places Hubert's body down, looking at his colorless face and his blood-matted hair, his torn clothes soaked in blood and sizzling with the remainder of his magic that is slowly fading out. He undoes his cape and slowly places it over Hubert's head. "We will be heading into the palace soon. Are you sure you are okay to join us?" Sedith asks, Out of concern, Ferdinand knows. But he worries what would happen if he did stay behind. Would he be seen as a coward? A backstabber? How he regrets his decisions, even if he does, but would never admit it to anyone else. Yes, I am okay. I am ready and prepared, Ferdinand replies evenly. Then let's prepare to head in. Ferdinand doesn't know how long it's been since he slept last. Getting back to the monastery was both a blessing and a curse. Finally, he could rest. But he knows the fight isn't close to being over yet. Hubert's words on that piece of parchment are stained in his head. Those who slither in the dark. A new threat that Ferdinand has never been told of before. But Hubert knows. New. Ferdinand has to remind himself bitterly. He tosses the pieces of his armor onto the floor, pushing cleaning them to the side for tomorrow. Despite usually being on top of it, he can't find it in him to do it right this minute. As he peels the clothes off his body, dropping them to the floor unceremoniously, he stares at the window of his old dorm room. He's too aware of the fact that Hubert's room was only 2 doors down, only a mere footsteps away. Ferdinand shakes his head and slowly climbs into bed, not bothering to put on bedclothes, feeling too gross to even consider it. He stares at the ceiling, cobwebs hanging between the posts. Slowly, his eyes begin to blur, brain going fuzzy, and he lulls himself to sleep. Ferdinand! The man in question groans, burying his face against his arms further. A loud sigh comes from beside him. Ferdinand, wake up! The cloudiness of fog slowly lifts from Ferdinand, but he still feels too groggy to move. He opens his eyes and is only met with the darkness shielding his vision from whatever is beyond him. His room, he's guessing. But if he's in his room, why is he hunched over as if at a desk? The lecture is over, Ferdinand. The voice comes again, impatiently and dripping with something too familiar, too painful to be true. It makes Ferdinand's heart drop into his stomach and jump into his throat, somehow simultaneously. The professor was very kind to let you sleep, but now you have to get up. Ferdinand slowly lifts his head and looks directly in front of him, and is met with the Black Eagle's classroom, not his own room where he'd fallen asleep. Finally, the voice says with a sigh, I was about to go get Manuela, or pour a bucket of water on you. His ears must be deceiving him, because there is no way this is real. It has to be a dream of some sort. But as he turned his head, he looks directly at the raven-haired mage, looming over him with his arms crossed. But he's in the officer's academy uniform, and his hair is longer. His hair is no longer short with little hair horns. He is not wearing a long, elegant cape or multiple belts, one that cinches his waist just so. But there is color in his face, a rosiness in his cheeks Ferdinand has never noticed before. Hubert, Ferdinand whispers, and feels his voice crack. No, this isn't what his voice sounds like anymore. His voice had gotten deeper, more mature. It didn't have that occasional crack as it once did when he was 18. Is this a dream? How are you? How am I what? Hubert snips with a glint in his eye. Not one of anger and hostility, one of defiance and a blankness Ferdinand hadn't seen in years. Even if they had a rivalry, the pure hatred in Hubert's eyes was never there until Ferdinand had left the Empire and joined the church with the professor and the rest of the Black Eagle's class. You're alive, Ferdinand breathes out. He nearly reaches out to touch Hubert to make sure he's not an apparition. Don't sound so disappointed, Hubert sneers with a shake of his head. The professor needs us on the training grounds. I am not waiting here a second longer for you. With that, he turns and starts to walk out of the classroom. Ferdinand's eyes trail behind him as he goes, feeling borderline nauseous, but in disbelief. Because this can't be real. It's been 5 years since they were in the officers' academy. It's been 5 years since he's ever interacted with Hubert like this. And 5 years in the future, Hubert died from Ferdinand's hand. There is no way this person in front of him is Hubert von Vestra. Hubert stops at the entrance to the classroom and turns his head to look at Ferdinand, a smirk on his lips. You won't be a good asset to the Empire if you sleep all day. I hope you prove me wrong. He turns around and walks out of Ferdinand's view. A redo, Ferdinand wonders. Was this Sothis' mercy on him and giving him another chance? Or were those 5 years just some horrible dream he had while slumbering in class? He slowly clambers up from the bench and starts heading towards the training grounds. He knows, either way, that he will not make the same mistake twice. He will change the fate that the future is waiting to bring them.